Slavery has been a dark stain on human history, with various forms and practices around the world. One common misconception is that the concept of slavery is homogeneous, but in reality, there are distinct differences between chattel slavery and other forms of slavery. Understanding the disparities between these systems is vital in comprehending the intricate nature of historical and modern-day slavery. Chattel slavery, humans as property. Chattel slavery, historically prevalent in the Americas, particularly in the United States, treated enslaved people as personal property, akin to livestock or other possessions. Enslaved individuals were considered the legal property of their owners and could be bought, sold, or inherited as part of an estate. The brutal transatlantic slave trade forcibly brought millions of Africans to the New World, where they were subjected to the horrors of chattel slavery. Additionally, the principle of partus sequitur ventrum meant that the children of enslaved women also became the property of the slave owner, perpetuating the cycle of bondage across generations. This legal doctrine reinforced the intergenerational enslavement of African Americans, contributing to the dehumanizing and oppressive nature of chattel slavery in the United States and beyond. The systemic devaluation of human life and the abhorrent treatment of enslaved individuals were intrinsic to the institution of chattel slavery. Other forms of slavery, debt bondage, and serfdom. In contrast to chattel slavery, other forms of slavery encompassed practices such as debt bondage and serfdom in various parts of the world. Debt bondage, for example, was prevalent in South Asia, where individuals would pledge themselves or family members as collateral against a loan. This led to an endless cycle of debt and servitude, often spanning generations. Serfdom, predominantly found in medieval Europe, bound the peasant population to the land they worked on, with limited freedom and rights. Although these forms of slavery may not have entailed the same status as chattel slaves, they nonetheless resulted in severe exploitation and limited autonomy for the individuals involved. Debt bondage, particularly in South Asia, was deeply ingrained in the socio-economic structure, leading to a perpetual cycle of poverty and servitude. Serfdom, on the other hand, restricted the movement and economic independence of the peasantry, with labor obligations and limited legal rights, creating a similar environment of exploitation and dependency. Legal and social status. A key distinction between chattel slavery and other forms of slavery lies in the legal and social status of the enslaved individuals. In chattel slavery, the dehumanization was institutionalized, as laws and societal norms explicitly treated enslaved people as property devoid of fundamental rights. Enslaved individuals were considered the legal property of their owners and could be bought, sold, or inherited as part of an estate, perpetuating the cycle of bondage across generations. On the other hand, in other forms of slavery, the enslaved individuals often had some legal recognition, albeit in a highly unequal and unjust framework. For example, debt bondage in South Asia led to an endless cycle of debt and servitude, often spanning generations. And serfdom in medieval Europe restricted the movement and economic independence of the peasantry, creating a similar environment of exploitation and dependency. Although these forms of slavery may not have entailed the same status as chattel slaves, they nonetheless resulted in severe exploitation and limited autonomy for the individuals involved. Impact and legacy. The impact and legacy of chattel slavery and other forms of slavery reverberate through history and continue to shape societal dynamics today. Chattel slavery, with its explicit dehumanization and intergenerational enslavement, has had lasting effects on African diasporic communities and has contributed to enduring systemic inequalities. Other forms of slavery have also left deep scars, perpetuating cycles of poverty and marginalization in affected regions. The psychological trauma from chattel slavery has been shown to persist across generations in African American communities, contributing to issues such as mental health disparities and economic disadvantage. Moreover, the enduring racial discrimination and socioeconomic disparities stem from the historical legacy of chattel slavery, which has led to present-day systemic inequalities. Similarly, other forms of slavery have also had long-standing effects, with debt bondage in South Asia contributing to ongoing poverty and limited opportunities for affected individuals and their descendants. Conclusion. In conclusion, understanding the distinctions between chattel slavery and other forms of slavery is crucial in comprehending the complex and pervasive nature of slavery throughout history. Chattel slavery, as seen in the Americas, particularly the United States, legally classified enslaved individuals as property, perpetuating a cycle of intergenerational bondage. This differs significantly from other forms of slavery such as debt bondage in South Asia and serfdom in medieval Europe, where individuals were tied to servitude through economic and social systems. Recognizing the legal and social differences between these forms of slavery sheds light on the nuanced impact of slavery on societies and the lasting legacy it has left on affected communities. By acknowledging these distinctions, efforts to combat modern-day forms of exploitation and oppression can be refined to address the unique challenges posed by different manifestations of historical and contemporary slavery.